Question.
Oh,
Yeah.
שעה.
בוקר טוב, כבוד הרב.
בוקר טוב. Good morning, Ari. Good morning. Morning. Good morning, Nehemiah. Got my text? Okay, very good.
Sorry, I have to leave early.
Okay.
You need to tell Chef's enough to be able to find some shit in the chairs.
Okay. כן, בטח.
No, people asked us whether you share because it's not text. You didn't text me last night.
I text you.
I didn't get a text last night. I didn't receive a text. I received a text about the mouth. I didn't receive a text.
I'll send it to you a second time and you'll look back and you see I sent it to you.
Okay.
You can send it out now, maybe someone will.
No, that's
But you'll see I did send it to you. You'll see right on top of the Dvar Malchus. You'll see that text.
הרב זה הלכה או שזה...
מה?
שאלות, שואלים את הבוש שלך שומע שאלות, אז תשובות. אחרי אחת,
the Jewish press actually this week they had a section and there was a big amount of different halacha parts of wrestling. Someone asked, are you allowed to get haircut from a barber of the other gender?
If you what?
If you're allowed to get a haircut from a barber of the other gender. We had it recently.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'achal medvarich.
That's somebody that I tell the government point.
how you know the agenda? You checked him out? Well, he said,
Okay, let's quickly. First, I'd like to finish off a question that we spoke about, which is a question that unfortunately a lot of people have all the time, which is for Oval to go to Simcha.
paper.
Oh,
I have.
here, all right, we have more. Here,
I had.
give him Menachem. So first, let's read the last piece in Shulchan Aruch that we didn't read last time. Yesh matir malav alaychal besudas nesoim by bris mila ima meshamshim. Malvat shli b'makim simcha. Gom b'bayis acher. V'yesh oisim. Kein nergim nak shavel meshamsham im yiritza v'erichal b'bayis ma shasholchem lo minas uda. Let's get back to this in a second. Yesh matir malav alaychal b'oisa suda shal dogim she'oisim lachen nesoim kem acher shav kvar pos kolem she'simcha b'mayne is leheka she'in simcha b'bayis suda v'shori. Very interesting minig there used to be. There used to be a minig that the day after they did the piri vidi, the chosin and the kala, they would make for lunch like a sudas dogim. Why a sudas dogim? Because they wanted to meramas that this couple should be zoichet to have so many children like dogim. Like David gave a special bracha to the dogim for to multiply. The opposite of what today there's such a thing as family planning, Rahman al-Islan, and all kinds of planning. Paket, we want to have very big families. So the Bach is a very, very interesting thing. The Bach also brings it in the beginning of as a Simcha Beis. He says like this: a Sheva Brachis is a Simcha Shel Mitzvah, and therefore Aval is not allowed to come, even though they don't say Shasimcha B'Moinoi. So he says the Sheva Brachas, we don't say Simcha B'Moinoi for a technical reason. He says if the Sheva Brachas is in the room and there's men and women, there isn't a proper mechitza. So we don't say Simcha B'Moinoi. Why don't you say Simcha B'Moinoi? You can't say Simcha B'Moinoi in a place where the Yetzer Hara is celebrating. Huh? The Simcha is in his house. Yeah, Ma'oin. Yeah. You can't say a Simcha B'Moinoi, says the Bach, if there is the men and women are in one room and the Yetzer Hara is celebrating. So therefore, it's an unbelievable thing. Today, I think more people are being nizid about this. Used to be in America was, was very mikubal, even by Fruma Yidden here in Flatbush, not to be so nizir on this thing. But the Bach brings to Sefer Chassidim. You can't say you have make a Shavim brachas. If there's no proper mechitza in the room, you can't say Shasimcha b'moinu. You can't say Simcha b'moinu. You can't say. I can't say. So Baruch Hashem, I think in the last few years, Shavim brachas.
There are two tables, one for men, one for women.
No, that's a mechitza. No mechitza, no asimcha b'moinu. No asimcha b'moinu. Yeah, that's what the Bach brings, and no. So okay, that's a different reason why not, but that's another discussion. There's another reason for that. Okay, so anyway, so it's an interesting thing. So the Bach says here that there's the meal that where they have the fish. That's taken not a special simcha meal, because it's just to be meramas. They're having lunch with fish and chips. To be meramas on the bracha piri v'riba. But the regular sheva brachas, even if you don't say simcha b'moinoi, it doesn't matter. It's a suda that the oval is not allowed to go to. So as we wrap up the sugya, I just want to wrap up what are the certain kulas that there is for. We said that for parents, you're not allowed to go to Beis HaSimcha, Beis HaMishta, for Yud Beis Chodesh, for other relatives for 30 days. What are the kulas that are there? The one is when he's the Baal HaSimcha, and Imlo Yochel Sham Yizbatal HaMaisa, he's marrying off his own child, or Ayotzav Yisayma V'Imlo Yochel Sham Yizbatal HaMaisa. So then you have to wait 30 days. And maybe I'll show him only 7 days. And then there's the second thing is the kula, which is a simcha a mitzvah, a sudas mitzvah, the lesbe simcha, which is anything less than a wedding. So that's another discount. So there's a machloikas. Our minig is only to be makel if it's in his house. The third machloikas of a discount is if he's going to go in and not eat. There's a machloikas Rishon. It could be that this machloikas Rishon has to do with the shaila, the kirsa.
They have music.
1 second. It says in one place in the Gemara it says it's also likonas labeis hasimcha, and it's somebody Rishonim quoted as also likonas labeis ha mishta. So it could be that the machlokas Rishonim run on the lines. If you say also likonas labeis ha mishta, but I'm not going in order for to eat or drink, but it be as a mate, it's a machlokas Rishonim, and we're mashmir, so that's not a discount, that's not an exception. The one exception that the Shulchan Aruch brings is which you just read, if he's mishamish, but he has to eat the food in his house, which is very stiff. So again, let's go through. The 4 things is, if he's the Baal HaSimcha himself, like a moyel or the sandik, or he's the parent, or the shushminin, they're a little bit makel for the shushminin. It's brought the poskim had that they used to, a lot of people wanted to come to the bris, so they lined up and they passed the baby from one to the other. So that's not proper. Or the shushminim, 100 people wanted to come to the chasna, so everyone went like this to the chasna for a minute. So no, that doesn't work. So it has to be that they're really the Baal HaSimcha. The second, the machloikus, which is Rak Abba, or the shushvinim, and they could only go to the chuppah. And then there is the discussion if it's a sudas mitzvah, the lesbe simcha less than a chasna balapo, or make only if it's in his house. Then there's the discussion if he's not going to eat, he's just going to go there. And he's not going to eat. We say it's lo yakonas afila that he's not allowed to go. Even the opinion that says that you're allowed to go, you're not allowed to go when b'shosh yesh mizmoite chosam v'kala, which some achronim mean that means it's music. I'm not so sure that's what it means. And the other one is to be mishamish, but mishamish, it's only if he's machloikis, and the minhag that's brought in Shulchan Aruch is only he can be mishamish and take the food and eat it at home. So, as we spoke about last week, that the Aruch HaShulchan brings from Rabbeinu Yosef, that he said that he had an unbelievable kula, that Chazal only made a chumrah not to go to Beis HaSimcha, Beis HaMishta of Rishus. But if it's mitzvah, it's 100% mutter. 100% mutter. As I mentioned last week, that there's a Beis Meir that brings 2 pshatim to squeeze, to fadrei, And the Rosh brings it in the name of Rabbi Yosef Halevi and Rabbeinu Tam and Rabbeinu Yitzchak, three the biggest Balei Tosos. There's a base mayor that has two pshatim to squeeze it this way and that way, that the Rosh didn't mean it, but the Rosh meant what he said, and he said what he meant. He says, Rabbi Yosef Halevi, Hevi Raya, the law, Sinan, Ela Beis HaSimcha, Shal Rishus, Kediksi, Kedamrinim HaMesach HaSmachas, HaKol HaMesam Osa Leilach LaBeis HaSimcha, At Shloishim, Alav Vivim, Ad Yud Beis Chodesh, Elam Keina Yisudas Mitzvah. Anytime it's a Sudas Mitzvah, you're allowed to. So, that was the gisa we spoke about. That was the gisa he had. So therefore, and there's one of the big Sephardi poskim, the Marashdam, who befedish learns it this way. So that's a nice way to be makel. Now with this, there's a nice statement that Lubavitch Ringaman put out on Dinis Machus. So he brings a note from the Rebbe. Someone asked that he was a oval for his brother, and he wanted to know if he could go to the Sudas Mitzvah Oil Lachop Aleph Kislev. I don't know what that means. He was going to Satmar, or he was going to Lubavitch. I'm not sure. He was going to Fabrenga for Yutas Kislev, he was going for, I'm not sure. Anyway, the Rebbe writes in the side, V'im yechalak mashka mazonis kayotza bazal misvadim, sheyichya halacha kedivrei hamekel. So what's the pshat when the Rebbe says V'im yechalak mashka mazonis l'misvadim, halacha kedivrei hamekel? Kedivrei hamekel on what? That there's a machloikis if it's going to help to give out mashka mazonis. Doesn't sound like that was what it means. Could be the Rebbe meant exactly this Rabbi Yosef Halevi and Rabbi Notam and Rabbi Yitzchak. There's three Balei Tosos that said that the whole is of going to Beis HaSimcha, Beis HaMishta is only Sharishus. But if it's Simcha Shalom Mitzvah, it's mutter. So, but for it, not everyone agrees with that. Shulchan Aruch doesn't agree with that. But Im Yechalek Mashka Mazonis Kayotza B'Zel Misvadim. So now he has the mile of Mishamish, but even though the mile of Mishamish according to Shulchan Aruch is that only that he can be there, not that he can eat there, but Tziruf with these three Rishonim, so we'll be make a loch kiduvra mekel. If that's the pshat, then it's a very big kula.
Is a siyum considered a Sudas Mitzvah?
Yeah.
So it means if it's as a hack, you can make it simple anytime you want. And
Yeah. Okay. So now let's go. Yeah. You wanted to ask. I'm sorry before you wanted to.
I was sitting Shiva for my mother in Israel. I came back the 29, and this is what she finished the Shloshim. And thereafter, I had my son's wedding.
Well, you're the Baal boy, you'll make the wedding. So
I know, but I asked what to do. They told me go to the kitchen, be like a waiter, bring some stuff to this and that. And that's it, what you have to do. So I went a few times, I brought few things, put on the table for the rabbis for you.
Right. So according to the simple din of Shulchan Aruch, that's not mutter, because even if he's mishamish, only he has to eat. He could eat there in lo yochel sham mizbach lamaisa, or he has to eat in the other room. But according to the Marashdam, which was like I mentioned, a very big Sephardi posek, and he brings the minig Mitzrayim was that they did go to Simcha Shel Mitzvah, and he justifies it. And one of the ways to justify it is by bringing these three Balei Tosos. So this is Achdus. The minig of Mitzrayim was based on three Balei Tosos, which are Ashkenazim. You see?
Beautiful.
Okay. Someone asked me, Vardy, his mother goes to a bakery. They have, like certain breads come in, like yesterday everyone was into baguette. Today, people are into Georgian food. If you go all over Israel today, yesterday everyone was into the falafel. Today they're into chachapuri.
What?
Chachapuri. It's like they make like a bread, and they make a bread, and they put in feta cheese, Bulgarian cheese. They crack an egg on top of it. It became very popular in Israel. You find the chachapuri quickly, then you find it. Huh? Lo makir. אני הייתי עכשיו בארץ לפני כמה חודשים. כן. So
for a while it was
in Israel it was falafel. Falafel was king, even today. But now the chachapuri, the Georgian food, I'm telling you, that's the fad of the day. The Georgian food. They have like a bread that looks like a yarmulke. Mamish, it looks like a yarmulke, like a bread like that. It looks like a yarmulke. It's just made out of dough. So you never saw it. They have lately. They're very popular. They're not like a lafa. They're not flat like a lafa. They like it puff up a little bit, look like a yarmulke, and they're quite good. Anyway, that's the fad of the day. If you didn't yet see the Georgian bread, so you heard it first at Beis Menachem. So you'll see it. You'll see it around. You'll see it around. The Georgian bread. Khachapuri. You didn't see Khachapuri around?
Nice name.
No, I'm telling you, you'll see it. It'll be in all the restaurants soon. It's echt the Georgian food, and it's the tomorrow. That's it. It's the fads in food. So people are into the Georgian food now. So he says his mother loves to go somewhere in Borough Park to this Georgian bakery, and she gets her khachapuri, and she gets her. I don't know what the name is in the bread, but there's a name for that bread that looks like a yarmulke. And she was thinking to herself, hey, wait a minute, it looks a lot like matzah. And the minig oilam is not to eat matzah from Chodesh Nisan. So Chabad don't eat it from Purim. The din of Shulchan Aruch is only at a Pesach. Only at a Pesach. So she asked the question. So let's read it a little bit in Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch, I'm reading it in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, Samantov Ayin Aleph. Koydem Shah Asiris. Muter lechel pas al derech shen is bor b'samei reish memtes. Maya pas sheyechel sheri chometz eini yochel lechel m'shach chamishes ve'elech. U'matzah eini yochel lechel kol hayoyim ma'amud ha'shacher ve'elech. You're not allowed to eat matzah from amud ha'shacher. Amru chachamim kol ha'oichel matzah b'ere Pesach ki el boil al rusosei b'veis chamir. That a person that it's egregious, it's so terrible that if he eats matzah by the Pesach, kilu she's narusa, but koydem shech Nisan al chuper lavar chaleh sheva brachas that he already slept with her. Makanoi samakas mardus, because it's not the tznizdika way of for a yid to live. So we say, so it's like the guy couldn't hold himself back for another few days to wait for the Nisuim. So like we laugh at him, like yokel he is. He couldn't wait for a few more days to the naked sleep with his kala, the heter, and he slept with her beveis chomuv, so he gets whipped. The same thing here. The Erev Pesach, if a person eats matzah, he will lose the geschmack. He will lose the tam tov. He's going to have a matzah like this. You smell the matzah. Go into the bakery before Pesach. You smell the matzah. It smells so good, and you want to eat, and you can't eat it. You can't eat it until the Zman of a mitzvah of achilas matzah. It's an unbelievable thing. So yeah. Okay. Like I told last year the story. Chaim Nachman Bialik said that the Taka, he learned the Gemara, and it's Taka, he tried both things and it's nicht gefährlich. To be boiled at a sausage at Beis Chomev, and he ate matzah at a Pesach. He was a Talmud Chacham, unfortunately, but he was like, a little went off the rails. So Chazal make it sound like these two things are so terrible.
That's the point. That a person should.
Why dafka bebet chama? You don't understand.
Because not
somewhere. Dafka bebet chama.
It's a gnai. It's a heipachatznius.
Double gnai.
It's a double gnai. It's a double heipachatznius. It's double. It's not menschlich. But Bnei Yisrael Am Karova, everything is done in a high level of tznius.
It's interesting. We don't say that by the shofar that much.
Right.
Well, the Georgian Jews live in Georgia today. It's only bread they have over there.
Okay, let's talk in 1 second. We'll talk about it in a second. You can't. You only the type of matzah that's kosher to be yotze the chovas of achilas matzah. That's the one you're not allowed to eat at a Pesach. Matzah shida and yotzem bo motion is more b'simentav summer base. Ein shom kol prati dinze. Next,
what about the square machine matzah?
So no, I even though we consider it terrible, but lagabi at a Pesach, you have to be choshesh from both sides. So read the next if you'll see. Eine nikras matzah shida am ken netam me peides nirgish be matzah. But the miram be mat me peides in time is nirgish bo in nikra matzah shida also love at Pesach because that's kosher matzah. Also we can mission matzah shida but when it's bar some tough some bit. But they say no nigam kwal matzah shida. The minig Ashkenaz is not to make matzah shita.
So they're making bagels with apple juice. It's
It's sweeter.
isn't it?
No. The reason why we don't make matzah shita is a separate thing. It's because we're choshish that maybe there'll be a drop of water inside and I'll get double chametz dik. Matzah kfula in a fucha shenadvar b'simen tav samachala she'ois naisa b'achila b'peisach. We spoke about in Siman Tov Samachalaf about matzah kfula nefucha. Now this year happens to be, but we went through the halachas of kfula nefucha. We even brought from the bakery a couple of pieces of matzah, a real kfula, a fake kfula. Like we went through the halachas of kfula nefucha. Yeah. So any matzah which is kfula nefucha, sh'aisa b'achila b'peisach mesafek shem neschametz, avol b'kein also loich l'mer pesach afilu she'ed koydem shachamishes she'esh loich shem alo neschametz matzah gemuri also loich l'matzah ber pesach that matzah kfula nefucha it's a minig, it's not brought in the Gemara. So the truth is that we're very machmir about it, and if it's a real kfula, we burn it on Pesach.
We still have.
We still have the matzah kfula. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Huh?
What does that mean? What's my kfula?
Menachem, you'll do me a favor.
No.
I'll show the matzah kfula, and you'll take a couple of pictures. It's my daughter now wants every week I should give her at least 6 pictures to put in. You get the emails? You get now with the pictures? You like it? You don't see it? No, take it from here. I am not going to tell you where to take it from. Take it everywhere you want to take it from. Here, Otazai. Here, wait. This is not the best kfula, but it's a pretty good kfula. It's a pretty good kfula, which we're noyek to consider it chametz. You don't have to burn this because there's a drop of space. But if a mamish touched, we had here a real kfula, where you have to burn it. I don't see now. This is also not such a mamish, a real kfula. But this is as close as you get to a kfula. Huh? No, listen, Mookie wants to have pictures all the time. This way we can put it on. Yeah. So this is as close as you get to. Oh, no. We had a real kfula. Okay, fine. So we have a matzah kfula. So we're noyeg to consider it. We're noyeg.
Where's the kfula?
I take with everyone in it. That's the main thing.
Doubled over.
Yeah. So this is pretty good. See, this is a kfula. When you see this, you have to take it off. If it was really touching, then you have to burn it on Pesach. But either way, there's only a minig. It's only a minig. So therefore, you can't eat it. So the same thing, Menachem asked a good question. Mishim matzah. So to Charedim Ladvar Hashem, there are many of them that go with Gedolei Yisrael. There's some that go the opposite. There's opposite feelings about and opinions about Mishim matzah. But even a person that wouldn't chas v'shalom touch it on Pesach, but you have to be choshesh on the other hand that maybe it's kosher matzah and you can't eat it, just like matzah kfula and fucha. Okay, so back to the shaila about the Georgian bread. There's no question that it's chometz gomur, because even though it looks to you like it's matzah, but they make it dough. They don't want it. They don't want it to have no tam. It tastes very good. It doesn't taste good. It tastes good because it's chometz stick. So there's no shaila that it's mutter to eat until Shoach HaMishus and at a Pesach. 100% mutter to eat it. While we're at this halacha, I just want to read a little more. Yesh noigim shalalech l'mor be'er Pesach kedei shechlanu b'layla l'tiyavim. Chen shalalech l'merish shepesach kedei loch l'balel shein l'tiyavim. Chen noigim tzatz v'ni adam l'mat b'achilus matzah b'yemrish kedei loch l'balel shein l'tiyavim. This is brought from one of the Rishonim from the Balei HaTosfos. It's a very interesting hidur. That they, by lunch, the first day of Pesach, by lunch, they would eat the minimum amount of matzah. They have to eat matzah because it's mechuyev. You have to eat pas so you have to eat pas, and so you can bench. But they would eat the minimum the first day of lunch of Pesach. It's interesting. They would eat the minimum amount of matzah. So in other words, you would eat a kibetza. You have to wash. You can't wash if you're not planning to eat a kibetza. So say, well, we would say about a quarter that the matzahs we made today in the probably a quarter of a matzah would be a kazais, half a matzah would be a kabetza. So we eat the minimum amount of matzah in order not to because that night To eat and they say that to eat it l'teyoven.
What's the amount?
No, by lunch, by the day meal, they would eat the minimum amount of matzah.
But the second
Yes,
night.
the second seder,
Oh.
they would eat the l'teyoven. It's a very interesting thing. Aber yesh negel hachmer oit shlo lechel peides bei der Pesach, oder yem Rishon shal Pesach, kedei lechel charoises balayla l'teyoven. V'yesh lochish l'minhag hahu. I'm sorry. Chabad is my moichish. That's why I read it wrong. So let me read it again. I'm sorry. Avyesh negel hachmer oit shlo lechel peides bei der Pesach, yem Rishon shal Pesach, kedei lechel charoises balayla l'teyoven. V'ein lochish shel minhag hahu. Kecharoises and mitzaloch like the levatel eresh b'morah shlo is again of other but also like have many b'morah but tzarich l'naptzem al b'morah shlo yevatel tamorah kem lama loyechel peiris b'beyan. According to this minig, that you don't eat fruits the first at a Pesach and the first day of Pesach. So Amol, my wife used to serve at the Seder homemade applesauce. Every year was the same minig. My father would say it's also because the minig is not to eat, even though the Alter Rebbe says that ein lachush, but l'poil Chabad yesh lachush. So we are choshish, and we don't eat or any of the peiros that we put into charosis at a Pesach or the first day of Pesach.
Who wrote this?
The Admor HaZaken.
Okay, so how come en lachush and before that yesh lachush? So it's contradiction.
He didn't contradict l'poil. That's the minig.
said-
The minig. He
You're
said.
not to eat, but en lachush you can eat.
Okay, but
What the-
the boil, that's the minig of Chabad is to be lachush.
You have nothing to eat. You have to eat some food.
I know.
Potatoes and eggs.
I always say, but look, finally we made the show that we don't serve the applesauce. But I said no, the applesauce we use raw apples in order to make charois. It's not cooked apples. That's not the minig to use cooked apples. Theoretically, if you use cooked apples, it wouldn't go against the minig of making charois. Anyway, back and forth, we made a show that
Your
we have
kids
a
asking,
second.
מה נשתנה היום הזה מכל הימים? של פסח.
There's almost nothing to eat. Like eat orange, eat orange, eat orange, eat a banana. Okay, Baruch Hashem, there's plenty to eat. So, okay. We're already standing at this shaila, so I have to share an unbelievable story that the Rebbe once said. This was many years ago. It's the Rebbe said the story in Tov Shemem Dalet, Shabbos HaGodel. There was a chosed. Shaila is which chosed it was with. So because see a Lepler, it was a different chosed. And he had the very intense avodah. He was a chosed Alter Rebbe, in the middle Rebbe, and Tzemach Tzedek. Before Yom Kippur, it was like 3 days. He was like couldn't talk to him. And the same thing before Pesach. A few days before Pesach, it was like he was busy in Bedikas Chometz. Obviously, big part of his Bedikas Chometz, Begashmi. But more Bruchnis, he was busy getting rid of the Chometz, Kis Chometz Lavavi. He was busy. He was very busy. He was very taught it. He was was very into it. One year, he decided to come to Lubavitch for Pesach. Now, the Seder was, by the Tzemach Tzedek, he didn't allow any Chassidim or anyone to come to Seder. Only his children sat, his sons sat with them at the Seder. So, the women could be the same in the other room. Pesach Nashim was also in the Chabad here, and the women used to sit in another room, and the men sat in the main room. Okay. Anyway, he only had his sons. He had many sons, so Baruch Hashem, all of them were big tzaddikim, and most of them became Rebbes, besides one. The Rebbe's great-grandfather was the only one that didn't become a Rebbe, but all the other ones became not. They were like splintered. They were from Chabad Chassidim. Today you only know Lubavitch, but there were very, very strong Rebbes that were Chabad Rebbes that were not Lubavitch. The sons of Tzemach Tzedek. Anyway, but if there were orchim that would come, the Tzemach Tzedek asked that from the house they should give for them a box for the Seder. You know, like when they had the Corona, they had the that's like we did it here. We sent I don't know, it was close to 50 packages. I think we sent. It was David is not on, but David went around and drove it here and there, and we made deliveries to places. So they would get the Pesach in a box. So they would get the matzah and the morer and the charoises and the wine. But the rest of the stuff they can get themselves. So he was being boidek chometz, Rabbi Kasir Lepler, and he gets a knock at the door. This is Shlomo the Geller with two shamoshim that were working. One was Shlomo the Schwarze, that he was the like the delivery man, and one was Shlomo the Geller. He was the guy that was working in the house. I guess people, because one had a black beard and one had a blonde beard. In Yiddish, they don't have a word for blonde. The Geller usually means a blonde. So there was Shlomo the Geller and Shlomo the Schwarze. So whenever he knocked on the door, he brings him a box, and there's the matzah and the motor, the mitzroches. Rabbi Kasil immediately is noitel yodayim. He eats up the matzah and he takes the motor and the charos and the wine. He puts it all into the clean atila, and he drinks it all up. And then he continues his avodah b'tikas chometz. Comes again in the middle of the seder, and he barges into the Tzemach Tzedek's seder. He says, Rebbe, ich hab gar nicht. Ich hab nicht kein Matzah. Ich hab nicht kein Wein. Ich hab nicht kein Morer. Ich hab nicht kein Charoises. When I heard the story as a kid, I thought it was like, it's crazy. But this is a story that the Frierdiker Rebbe told the Rebbe told it. So the Frierdiker said, how could it be? They didn't. So he called Shlomo the Geller, Shlomo the Schwarze, and the guy who delivered said, "Du gedenkst nicht, du gesetzen beim Tisch, like he gave him, bist doch gerecht. Ich habe es Tage gegessen und es hat mir sehr geholfen in my avodas Hashem."
What is it?
He said, Taka, you're right, I'm sorry, I forgot. I ate it and it really helped me out a lot. At that moment, I needed it. It helped me. So the Tzemach Tzedek said, okay, you know what? Stay here by the Seder. So he was Zoichet to be by the Seder. He said, after that, 15 years it took him to work for that Seder. It gave him a job for 15 years afterwards. He worked hard to internalize what he was makabel at that Seder.
Oh.
15 years. It took him later to bring into his avodah what he got at that Seder.
What were you saying about the fruit? That's the bad custom, no fruit the first day?
Erev Pesach and the first day.
Why?
No, yeah.
We'll go get to that later. So, we got to it already before, but
before you
right. So what happens? The Rebbe is the kapella. The pella is the Tzachadin Shulchan. You're not allowed to Erev Pesach. It's already after it was this mana b'dikas chometz. So you're going to tell me only from Alois HaShachar, but the minig lepoil, the minig is more than just the minig is lechoida from Rosh Chodesh Nisan and from Purim. The Rebbe had a very original answer. The Rebbe said that it's nishkin kasha. If when a person is not a bar chiyuva, you can't fault them. So, l'mashal, if a person is in the middle of sleeping, and he was mazik, he's chayiv. The person is b'emtzei salpos. He's not a bar chiyuva for mitzvahs.
B'emtzei what?
He's in the middle of fainting.
Oh, fainting.
The Rebbe said it's brought in the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Aleph that there were, and it's brought in also it's brought in Siman Tzamach. It's brought in Siman Tzaddik Ches. That there were Chassidim Rishonim that they would do avodas atfila until they got to a level close to nevuah, ispashtus agashmius, that they like as if they would physically shed, but not said by the Nevi'im that they could lose their pants and they would walk naked and they wouldn't know they're walking naked. That was begashmius. Because they lost touch with gashmius. They were so double that if they lose their pants, they wouldn't know they lost their pants. It's brought in Tanakh.
Is that why Eliyahu girded his loins?
That's something else because he wanted to go very far. But it's brought in Shulchan Aruch that Chassidim Rishonim with in Tefillah they would get to a place where they would like lose touch of Gashmias. You can't understand what it means, B'chal. Like
lose their pants.
Huh?
Who told them to lose their pants?
Exactly.
And what page was it? Tzach.
Yes, exactly. Very tzach.
Yeah.
So they would lose touch with Gashmis. They would come to Korav L'Mailas Anavur, not Mailas Anavur, but Korav L'Mailas Anavur, where they would lose the feeling of Gashmis. And that person that Rebbe says in that level of Dveikus, you can't. He's not a Bar Chiyuva. Take is in a higher level of Dveikus, he's not a Bar Chiyuva. But Lider, the matzah he ate, and the mortar he ate, and the wine that he drank became dama bosik psori, became part of him, and like you said, it really helped him in his avoidance of Rebbe. What was the Rebbe's lesson from the story? It's an unbelievable lesson. The Rebbe's lesson, the story was like this: that when a Yid gets a message from the Rebbeinu Shalom, Tzaddik is only a noicha omed ben Hashem u'beineichem. Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Anoich Omed Ben Hashem." I'm not telling you my private things. I'm not like giving you Anoich Omed Ben Hashem Beineichem. I'm telling you Dvar Hashem. When a Yid gets it gets a shlichus from the Rebbe, he has to immediately pay attention to that shlichus. So a person says, "I'm learning in middle of Geshmak Sugya," but the Rebbe says that there is a Jewish child who's crying and he doesn't know how to put on a period film, or he doesn't know about matzah, or he doesn't know about Torah film, mezuzah, tzedakah. Doesn't know about Neir Shabbos Kodesh Kasher Sachilu V'Shtiyah Taratz Mishpocha. So the Rebbe was talking about the shlichus that the Rebbe didn't consider himself, but like shlichus from his father-in-law. And a Yid gets a shlichus that now he has to make sure that the Yidden that surround him have matzah shemuda, and that they know that there's a seder and they have a place to do the seder. So he has to drop his own particular chometz, and the Rebbe geschikt a shlichus. And you know what? At the end of the day, it helps into your avodah too.
Mitzvah al tachmitzena. Don't make it chametz.
Right.
Do it right away.
But
Okay.
that extreme, he explains, I think it's the same thing that he explained, but he says, like what is our avodah? What are we doing? You just have to look around and see who's in your life and in your area, and who is it, you're going to work, you have people over there you can help.
Right.
So to see
Right. And now, especially now with the Shmona Matzah. Someone called me up before Shabbos. There's a new shik's in the house, and he thought she's dumb, and she figured out she's dumber than dumb. he explained her everything. Where's the leche and where's the meat? And he told her 100 times that
What's
this
leche?
the
Milk.
milk.
In Spanish.
Okay.
And he showed her that you used a separate sponge, and the milk in the sink and the flesh in the flesh sink. And he thought that she shook her head 100 times that she understands. And then he comes into the kitchen an hour later. All the milk pots, and there was a lot of cheese in them left over. Now they're all clean, and they were all washed in the fleishika sink. So what are you supposed to do right now? That was the question. So, instead of Pesach,
She's going to pay for the cake.
instead of Pesach, don't fire.
Neither.
Don't fire. Today it's so bad. Some of these chicks they steal and everything, and
That's the wrong.
this is the business. But okay. So look, the bottom line is like this: the milk. So like this, the water that's coming out of the sink is the question is if it's called a klidish. Usually, the question is always what's the heat level of the water. We have to be choshesh about a sink that's cooking in a pot, and then when you open the faucet, if the water would be yad seled, sometimes the water could get quite hot. That could burn your finger. Sink water could burn your finger. It could get to that level of heat. Question is if the shiksa put on that amount of water. Probably not. But first, what's the shaila? So then you have hot water from Edom Klidishin. So you have a problem here. So like this. The sink, he said that they didn't use already 2-3 days. So the tam that's going from the fleishka sink into the milk dishes is Simon Tzaddik above in Yeredeya, that's called Nat Barnat. It's Nisan tam goes into the walls, it goes out, and it's called Nat Barnat Levgam, and therefore it's mutter. So the tam that's from the meat that's going into the milk pot is mutter. What's the problem? The problem is that she used a fleishika sponge, and the sponge might have pieces of meat in it. So I asked if he could check the sponge, and he says that sponge looks very clean. And they use soap, so the soap could be, if there's a drop of some, maybe schmaltzy something or something on the thing of the sponge, it was probably canceled by the amount of soap that was put on it. So the milchke pots are fine because the time of the bossa that went into the pots that are cholav are fine. The problem was the other way around. Now you have pieces of cheese that got into the walls of the fleishike sink, and you want it to be considered fleishik. You want to classify it fleishik, but now you have the time of milk that went into the walls of the fleishike sink. So you have to cash it. That's it.
So
It's anyway before Pesach. So how do you do it? So since we have 10 minutes left to the shir, and it's before Pesach, and many of us want to cash in the kitchen anyway, so it's a good time to review this halacha. Let's read the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch Siman Tov Nun Aleph Sif Chof Hey.
Oh yeah.
Echad kli mateches, ve'echad kli eitz, ve'echad kli glolam, kli avonim, kli adoma, shenishtavish b'mchometz edei mashka chamin, keder shenishtavish b'mkach tzorech lakshir in idei. The golden rule in Kash and Kelim, keboile kach pelte. However it went in, that's how it goes out. It went in through fire, has to go out through fire. It went in through water in the heat of a klidishin, has to go out with water in the heat of a klidishin. It went in through Edom klidishin, has to go out through Edom. It went in through klisheni, has to go out through klisheni. However it get in, keboile kach pelte.
How it went in.
How the isur, however the isur got swallowed into the walls of the pot or the sink, that's how it comes out. Ketzah. Kelim shenishtamesh when they blow chometz kol hashana, they shem klidishin. Kollel ketzim kshederach sheshtamesh chometz kol hashana, they shem klidishin. Tzarech lagila b'terech klidishin. L'roiteach, you have to take a pot, boil the water until you see the bubbles are walking towards each other, and then you put it into that pot. Al derech sheizbor b'samatof l'beis v'nikol klidishin. Afilu lacher sherevu min eish k'moshin is boil l'mayla. It's called a klidishin even if after you took it off the fire. There is an opinion that says that if the isur was mamish a klidishin, kishahoya a klidishin eitzel hoeish, torach lagil gamkin beterch klidishin oimed eitzel hoeish, the kavoy lekach poiltoi. The golden rule of kavoy lekach poiltoi means that it's not good enough that this is the klidishin. It has to be when the isur went in to the say he was cooking not kosher and accidentally put in a kosher spoon. So if the pot was right now on the fire, so when you kosher it, it's not good enough that it's a hot pot with hot water. The pot right now has to be sitting on the fire. אבל בחומץ אפילו לכתחילה יש לסמוך על סבור ראשונה, שיש אמרים שאפילו כלים ששם בחומץ הדאר בלבד מלץ למעגול בכלילי של אח שבוע מהאש. Because chomets before Pesach, we could be making like the first opinion. If there's a kli which got into the walls, bosar and then cholav, Af alpi shetam abosar v'cholav nivlu b'er yedei ha'oir nivlu b'bavas achas ela b'zachas metamshin is bar l'mayla, which is that bosar v'cholav is a chiddush that they have to mix. But here, because first went into the walls of the pot the tam bosar, and then went in the tam cholav. The reason the real bosar v'cholav is when you cook meat and milk together. Here, so therefore, the isur isn't so strong. They say that even if you do it with a klidishin that's not on the fire, it's good enough. If it's a plate that you have to put into klidishin, but it's too big, he should take a rock. He should take a rock, and he should put the rock on the fire until the rock becomes white. Then he should take the rock. Not with his fingers, he should take a plier. Otherwise, it'll kash his fingers. And he should take the rock and put it on that plate. We're talking about a metal plate, obviously. Aber kli kotten sheyoch lachnisa beterech klidishin. Geen keores ktanes ein lagil in the eat of even al oben lefi sheyesh chelkim al zeh v'em shagol zo enech shuva. So if you could put it into the klidishin, you should put it into the klidishin mamish on the fire. But if you have no choice, this plate is too big, so then you take the water of a klidishin, even though it's not on the fire anymore, and you pour it, and then you take the rock and you put it over every surface, and that's considered as if it was mamish in a klidishin, and not stam in a klidishin, as if it's on the fire. But not everyone agrees with that. So therefore, you do it only when you have no choice. But if you have a choice, you should dunk it into klidishin mamish.
You're saying cook it
Huh?
until it's.
You always have to wait 24 hours before.
You're saying you're using.
Huh? The pot stays kosher. Yes.
Even though there's whatever.
Yeah, because it goes out. Better to designate a pot for hachshara. The emphasis it's brought in Shulchan Aruch, the minig is to be designated a pot for hachshara. But in our case, what we'll talk about right now, which is the kasher, say a sink, it's not negeya because you're not putting the sink into the pot anyway, so it makes no difference. You're not putting the sink in the pot, so it's not shaykh the whole inyan. So what you do is like this. The truth is, one second. The truth is that this sink, the maximum is it's idu miklidish. So it's not so bad. It's not mamish. The sink was never went into a klidishin. And as we said, when the meat and milk went in at separate times, were makel, and also if you're kashing for chametz, you're basically makel. But if a person wanted to do the highest level of achshara that's possible, not only to do a idu miklirishin, but he wants to do more than that. So,
But you said what goes in comes out. So doing more would be above and beyond the Torah. You said we do no more, no less. That's what you said.
yeah,
So why would we want to do more than the Torah says?
because we're not sure that that the sink is idu miklirishin. Well, it's idu miklirishin. It's taka idu miklirishin. But a person might want to kasher it better. There's nothing wrong to kasher it better. This doesn't say that you can't kasher it better. When you're doing a idu miklirishin, when the iser went in and you're choshesh that the iser went in a very strong way. Now he's going to take and he's scared that maybe the heat of the water that he's putting from the China is a little less than the heat, even though it's probably not possible. That the heat of the water that he's putting from the pot when he's kashering now is less than the heat that came in from the sink. Now the possibility for that to be true is almost impossible because
To make pasta, the hot water is poured the pasta into the sink.
okay, so now he's also doing his idu and idu. So it's there's no reason why you would have to do more than idu miklidish in a sink. There's no reason why. The only reason why you might need more than an idu miklidish is for an unusual thing. If, for example, which is not in this case, then what happened, but maybe in this case could have been, if a piece of isur that was very hot, if the piece of cheese became so hot that or a piece of bread was so hot, or the piece of pasta was so hot that it sat on the surface of the sink, and there is an opinion that when something is a gush, it retains the heat of a real klidishin. So then the isser that went into the walls of the sink went in as a klidishin, not as a idu klidishin. So if, for example, if he drained pasta in a sink, and now a piece of pasta which was so hot, what are the possibilities? It could happen. Can't say it can't happen.
The oil, the boiling point is higher.
Right.
It could be.
It could happen. Right. If he fried something which is chametz stick, yeah, that's exactly possible. If you fried, the heat of oil is very high, and you fried something, and in the frying pan there was chametz, breadcrumbs, made schnitzel, and then he poured it in the sink. So now the little breadcrumbs went into the sink at a higher level than idu miklidishin. It's considered that it went into mamash klidishin. It went into mamash klidishin. So say now he wants the kasha in the sink. Now he wants.
It was a sink klidishin?
Huh?
The sink klidishin?
Either from the same Kedushin.
בשבת זה לא same.
Yeah. זה עירה מקלידישן. זה כל עירה מקלידישן.
זה same, זה אותו דבר, זה
כן, זה נקרא עירה מקלידישן. כך, עירה מקלידישן. So what would he do if he wants to kasher the sink? So again, mostly the sink needs to be kashered in a way that Ida Miklidish. So you can cook up a case where the Issa went in on a stronger way. So for that, Baruch Hashem David had geholfen that today there is a industry that's
Sink inserts.
no,
Sink inserts.
no. There's a better industry than that. There is, you can go for $20, you can get in Eichler's, you can get what's called a Eben Malubin. Now, until a couple of years ago, if you ever wanted to kasher a surface with Eben Malubin, so you took a plier, and then you took, and then you said a little tehillim that,
Be burned.
not to get burnt. So someone thought of I think more like, better even than the Shabbos lamp. That and the Shabbos lamp are probably two of the best kosher inventions. So someone thought of a brilliant idea that he took a rock, and he built a cage around it with a long stick and a wooden handle, because wood doesn't conduct heat, with a wooden handle. So very simple. What you do is for $20 you buy the Eben Malubin, and then you put it on the fire.
What does that do? What does that accomplish?
And so you leave it on the fire for several hours, maybe 2 hours, maybe 2 hours, and then you'll see that it almost becomes white. It's hard to see how much it gets white, but it gets whitish a little bit. It does get whitish. And half hour before you're starting to kasher, you put a pot full of hot water, cold water. Put a pot. Obviously, you haven't used the sink you make sure not to use the sink for 24 hours, and you make sure that it's clean like a whistle. And then after you're ready, you take in one hand, you take the Even Malubin, and the other hand, you take the pot, and you make sure to cover every surface of the sink.
What's the Even Malubin add to the?
It makes it as if it's a real klidishin. That's what we just read inside. It makes it as if it's a real klidishin. Now, the top of the sink, if a person maybe he drained pasta and a few pieces fell on the spout or on the piece that lets the water out, so that you could unscrew it and you could throw it into the pot. You could throw it into the pot if you want to have it. It should be mamish like a klidishin. So that's
And what do? You just rub the stone all over the sink?
you don't have to rub it. You just, at the same time that you pour the water, you're pouring the water and you're bringing the stone over at the same surface.
And
to make sure that you
You
don't.
put the stone in the sink or you?
No.
I'm still not understanding. What is
One hand you hold the stone, and the other hand you hold the pot of water, and you're pouring it slowly over the stone, and you make sure that it touches every single surface on the sink. And then
Every surface, what do you rub it around like a sponge?
if you could rub it like a sponge, you're a Leon
That's what
Novi.
you're saying.
Not like a sponge. You move it around like a rock. What do you mean? It's a rock. It doesn't move like a sponge. It moves in a clumsy way. It doesn't move like
The whole sink.
Why would you scratch the sink?
You touch the stone, it's sink. Stainless steel.
No, there's the water on the stone.
You lightly
You
move.
just want it basically to pour over like instead you're putting into the pot.
Right, you're pouring the water on every surface on the sink, and while you're pouring, you make sure that the stone is on that place.
And again, I'm just not understanding my concern. If you would boil hot water, boil water and pour it over the whole sink without this special rock, what is the rock adding to the picture beyond pouring over the whole sink itself?
Right, the pouring of it has the din of Iru Miklidishin,
Okay,
and when doing with a rock, it has the din of a Klidishin.
so it changes the halakhic Messias.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Would you say that?
Huh?
must be cutting.
Yeah, אני אמרתי לא חובה. אמרתי,
Just make the water never.
The sink.
the water doesn't get higher? No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. because the choim of a Kli Rishon doesn't always go. Chazal said that a Kli Rishon is much stronger than a Kli Sheni. What happens if a person is going to test the water and he'll put it from a Kli Rishon to Kli Sheni at the same temperature? It still has the same din. So Chazal said the emes take that the water might be the same thing, but the fact that the walls are cold, that has an effect. That has an effect. So the fact that the water went out of the Kli Rishon, even though it has a certain effect. So now that you add the Evan Malubin, it's as if it's still sitting in the original pot. What was the mile of the water sitting in the original pot? That it's still touching the hot walls. So now the Evan Malubin is the same thing. It's as if it's in the original pot. Right, exactly.
So you don't have to do this. This is above and beyond. This is for those very.
Like I said, it costs $20 today in Eichler's. It's not that expensive to do, and it adds to value to the.
Burn yourself also.
No, you're not going to burn yourself. It's made in a way that you're not going to burn yourself. It's made in a very safe way. You don't need two people to do
It's a
it.
heavy pot.
You need to have a right and a left hand.
It's a heavy pot in a big sink.
So what you do is you could do multiple pots, and then you could do smaller pots. This way you could easily maneuver it. You could put on 3 medium pots, and this way it's easier on your hand. Alternatively, you could have one big pot, and then you can have a smaller pot, and then every time you need more water, you go into the big pot, but you put it on the fire, and you wait to see that the small pot, and then you continue, because the big pot is too heavy for you. So you're taking the small, but you have already boiling water, and you go like this, and it's much easier.
And you have to take the small pot, put it back on the fire. Or you go
The small pot, you put it back. If you're doing, like I said, you have a big pot as a reserve of water.
I got you.
So then you take the small, you put on the big, you put on the fire, you wait 1 minute or 2 minutes, and then you keep on going.
How you catch your micro?
I don't know how to catch a microwave.
You take the pot with water,
Mm,
put it on 360.
I know.
Water,
they let the
and then you make sure it cleans. That's it.
I don't know. Okay, David shall helfen. Like if you can see it, like, huh?
We'll go over the
What?
things.
I'll tell you soon because you missed it. That's why I'll tell you read it. Huh? We're telling right now comments.
Okay.
How many people watched? Please raise your hand because we're going to do breakfast on the zone.
There's the hand.
Raise your hand. Don't be.
Oh, yeah, good. We got. Maybe we could do with a kosher bracha. We have a kosher bracha.
So how many?
Maybe
Probably Wednesday night. Yeah, Wednesday night. Yeah. Definitely Wednesday night. I'm only thinking maybe I'll do also Tuesday night, but probably Tuesday night will be the long and Wednesday night will be the Bartoides. So then come Wednesday night maybe. Wednesday night for sure I'm doing the Bartoides. For sure. Wednesday night I'm doing Divinatoida, yes, Mitzvah, yes. I might do also Tuesday. So I'll see when I have it. So I'll send out a text.
Okay.
Did you watch?
What are you selling? You're selling the helmet?
Right now.
Did you watch?
Oh,
You have a
okay.
pen?
Did the rabbi next to you watch?
No, it's
Rabbi, did you watch? Rabbi.
Here, let me.